I had an interesting run-into with Senator Jerry Grafstein the other day at the Sushi Inn, and he mentioned to me something very interesting about my ex-partner Morgan Earl. His phraseology was interesting. He said Morgan worked for him when he was running the Liberal Party. And I do recall that when we were in business, how we were the beneficiary of a lot of Liberal Red Leaf money. And I thought it came from Hank Harpus myself. But Jerry explained that he's currently writing a story about his life, his memoirs, and he's mentioning Morgan in his book. Well deserved for sure, because Morgan helped get Mr. Trudeau elected. Hello. And we benefited by getting our second studio built. I'm not sure if I'm going to, what I want to do with him. I'd really like to have some input into his story. I'm very interested in seeing how Morgan worked for him during those years. Very interested. Not thinking anything, actually it just came to mind. I wasn't thinking this. But I know all the money went through the business. I don't know why that thought even came up. I always thought that Morgan and I played a pretty straightforward, honest game together in business. And at some point I'm going to tell the story of how I built Morgan Earl Sounds and how I traded, Jerry Grafstein. Here, I'll tell the story now. Jerry Grafstein was Morgan's lawyer when we put the business deal together, where this was just after Moses Neimer had reneged on our deal memo. I had prepared a deal memo between Moses Neimer and Morgan Earl. I was Morgan's accountant at the time. And the deal memo indicated, I think we had 11 or 12 or 13 points of agreement in our deal memo. But when it came time to put the deal memo into a contract, Moses changed every point. Keep in mind, at the time that we were negotiating, Morgan had left his job at Listen Audio. On the strength of our deal memo, Morgan took out I'm not sure if it was a full page or a half page ad in marketing, telling the world that we were opening in the Thunder Sound facility. The Morgan Earl Sounds was opening. I mean, Morgan's reputation was on the line. We had, I think we had a picture. I recall being in a picture that I don't know if it made it into marketing, but it made it somewhere. Anyways, we were going to start Morgan Earl Sounds out of Thunder Sound until Moses reneged the deal. We had this meeting with Moses, and I just said to Morgan, I said, Morgan, this man is not an honest man. We can't do this deal. He says, well, leave it, let me work it out. Maybe it's just because of you two guys. So I said, well, okay, go, do the best you can, of course. So Morgan's main point, he yielded on every point, each one costing him tens of thousands of dollars. And the main point was who controlled the facility. Moses wanted to control the facility. And that was a deal breaker for Morgan, because Morgan wanted to control the facility. And I agreed with Morgan. I think it was his deal. He had to control it. So we walked out. I remember we walked out of, I think, 29 or 79 Davenport, the old Thunder Sound building. And we said to each other, well, what are we going to do now, Ollie? And him and I, we walked down to Yorkville, and we found 11 Yorkville. And within a week, we had organized a facility that we would have to refurbish. We'd need 50,000 just to get going. So I told him I'd go get it, and I went and I borrowed money from my godfather at 18%. People are funny, you know. This was a multimillionaire who my grandfather, him and his brother used to brag my grandfather started them in business. And they, funny, people are funny in business. Anyway, they lent me $50,000 at 18%. And we built the studio. And we never looked back. We went and we built the studio, and we're very successful. Thank you very much. And we should tell some stories about after we built it. Because the other part of how I built this, where the other money came from, I sold my tax loss from Second City, which is a whole other story, my Second City story, with Andy Alexander, how Andy Alexander claims to have been the impetus behind Second City in Toronto. Well, it was James Patry and Mitchell Gold, but that's another story. This is the Morgan Earl Sound. Suffice it to say, I sold the Second City loss to one of my clients to finance the building of Morgan Earl Sound Studio. That was the two transactions that made us whole at the beginning, and thanks to the good graces of Morgan and the great teams of people that he established over the years, we were a world leader in the field, and a very creative guy. And I'm looking forward to Jerry Grafstein's perception of how Morgan worked for him, because Mr. Grafstein wasn't anywhere around the scene for at least the first 5 years, that's for sure. Maybe the first 4. Then we started to get some liberal business. And it was the liberal business that helped us a lot. And I think, but I do not know, that it was also the reason that we lost Footprint Productions, because we were seen as a liberal house. And Thrifty's, Charlie Diamond, shut us down. He had pressure on him to shut us down. I never knew that story, and I've asked Doug McQuigg to tell me the story a number of times. I don't know the story of why Footprint Productions lost the Thrifty's account. I even went to Charlie Diamond personally and said, look, last year you paid $150,000 for it. I'll give it to you for nothing. I need you in the show. He said, no, I can't do it. That's politics. I couldn't even give away the best programming in the country. Best radio program ever in Canadian radio history. We used to put $5,000 per hour into production of a radio program. This was at the same time one of my other companies was producing a half-hour television show for $3,500. We were putting $5,000 into a radio show and doing 21 hours of programming. Imagine that. Here Comes Summer, terrific radio program. It's astounding that the ideas behind Here Comes Summer, Spring Fever, Welcome Back, those radio programs, we only went out of business because two things. One, Charlie didn't continue his support of us, and two, our bankers didn't understand the notion of bartering radio time. Because because I lost my sponsor, I had to barter the time. And then our bankers didn't understand radio time as a barter commodity. And we didn't lose any money for sure in it, but because the advertisers thought we were making too much money, they shut down our Footprint Productions. They told they told the radio stations not to accept our free radio. We were giving to all the stations across the country, 90. We gave away our programming free. We paid $5,000 per hour, more than has ever been done before. And then we would sell the advertising, and we would sell it and make money. That was how we made money. But we gave the programming away free. And it was a great business model. But the rep houses, the national rep houses, put the screws to us. Such is life. But interesting. If you want to know the Morgan Earl story, that's the Morgan Earl story, part of the Morgan Earl story. Our successes over the years, tops in the world. We used to go to the Clios in New York and Amsterdam. I remember Paul Hoffert and his wife Brenda and Morgan and I went to Amsterdam to receive the Clios. We worked with Ralph Cole. Then we had some learning experience with other musicians over the years. But Paul was a wonderful partner. Brenda was a wonderful writer, human being, person. And we had a really good production house going for a number of years until Morgan got distracted with the film business, and we were trying to work him out of the business. And this was our second dealings with Mr. Senator Jerry Grafstein, was when Morgan wanted to leave the business. I said, oh, well, let's value the business, and we were going to sell it to partners, and we had done the deal. I won't take you through the aborted deals that we had, because Morgan became, I don't know who was advising him, maybe Jerry, I don't know who, but he was afraid of the deal that we had first set up with the first partner we brought in. He was afraid that he would lose my trust, I think, that me and the new partner would outvote him. So we set up another deal, and then we set up another deal. Each one of them worse than, not what each one was a good deal, but none of them came to fruition. And Morgan ended up taking a walk and left me to deal with everything, the banks and creditors and everything. And I came out whole, sort of, but it was a very stressful situation that I experienced. At the same time, my wife, number two, ran away with my daughter. That was so it was at a very stressful, emotional time, and maybe I would have done things differently. I haven't thought about it really, but in retrospect, I probably should have been able to save the business, because it was a good business, but I may have not been together enough to do it. I remember we hired Bill King, came in as our music director for a time, and Earl Bruce came in to try and take over production, but we had lost our momentum because of some other things that Morgan had done, and anyways, it all worked out for here I am today. I'm a happy, healthy guy. Morgan's a happy, healthy guy, but he's sort of taken off his resume all his time at Morgan Earl Sounds, which I find curious at best. But he's living, I think, up near Huntsville, and it's taken up a new career of being an artist, which is what he was when I first met him. He was an artist, but he was a salesman as well. He was one of the best salesmen around, because he built our company. He really did. I just helped him. So blessings to Mr. Morgan Earl, and to Jerry Grafstein. I'm interested in seeing how Morgan worked for you, and see what you have to say about him. But it is true, we did get Mr. Trudeau elected, and the Red Leaf campaign did build our second studio. We wouldn't have been able to do it without him. In retrospect, it would have been better that we took the money out. Then we could have parted ways much easier if we had taken money out. But by leaving everything in, it made it difficult for me to walk for nothing, which is what Mr. Grafstein wanted me to do. And I wasn't prepared to walk after 10 years of supporting this business to just take a walk. I wanted fair value, and I think I was entitled to it, and I stuck to my guns on it. My brother came in and said, "Grab 20,000 if you can and get out of there." Thank you, Stan, but it wasn't good advice. Even in retrospect, but the winding up of the company, I think. They couldn't have done it. They couldn't have bought the company from me because Morgan didn't have the financial backing to buy me out. That was the problem. Morgan didn't have any financial backing, and Jerry didn't help him, didn't offer to help him. So I'm interested in how Jerry helped him over the years, aside from what I acknowledge, and I'm very grateful. That's my Morgan Earl story from start to didn't cover too much of the many years of pleasantries that we shared in the company with many people, actors, actresses, voice people, musicians, production people, advertising people, Christmas parties, our baseball games, our volleyball games, our team spirit. We had wonderful teams. Our venture into Footprint Productions, our venture into Morgan Earl Pictures, our ventures into ADD, audio duplication and distribution services limited, ADD. I had ADD before ADD was ADD. It was ADHD. Anyway, pardon me for my bad jokes. That's the Morgan Earl Sound story. I hope you're all well. Enjoy the day.